Quick facts. Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism is an ideology and movement that encourages the solidarity of Africans worldwide. It is based on the belief that unity is vital to economic, social, and political progress and aims to unify and uplift people of African descent. The Pan-African flag, also known as the UNIA flag, is a tricolored flag consisting of 3 equal horizontal bands of red, black, and green. It was formally adopted on August 13th in 1920. Variations of the flag have been used in various countries and territories in Africa and the Americas to represent Pan-Africanist ideologies. Among these flags are Malawi, Kenya, St. Kitts, and Nevis. And welcome back. You are watching Politically Correct with me, Ms. Maya Hayakawa. Today here at Politically Correct, we are discussing all things Africa. The focus is on Africa. Right now you are watching a filler all about Pan-Africanism. And right now I have a guest, Mr. Lenana Faraj, the author of the popular Pan-Africanist site called Social Political Movements in Africa. Welcome back, Lenana. Now, you very confidently identify yourself as a Pan-Africanist.
Yes.
What does it mean to you to be a Pan-Africanist?
I think the very most important thing people need to understand about being a Pan-Africanist is embracing the African within you. I think society has taught Africans not to be proud of themselves because of all the stereotypes that were given by the outside world, or you're impoverished, or there's lots of war, there's hunger and homelessness and AIDS and disease. And what that does is it makes people reduce their self-esteem. They want to go to America and get a green card. They want to travel to Europe. They don't want to associate as being African because they're not proud of themselves. Pan-Africanists are people who remind you to be proud in Africa. Like, there's so much culture, there's so much richness. We have the very first education system and university system in Timbuktu, and we have the pyramids in Egypt, the Zulu Empire in South Africa. So much to be prideful in Africa. And once you just stop thinking of yourself as just a Kenyan, you open your mind to being, I can go to Lagos and chill with my brothers in Nigeria and go to South Africa. You feel like now this is Africa that embraces you.
Yeah.
And like we were talking about earlier in the break, Pan-Africanism is not a new term.
Yeah.
Pan-Africanism started way before in the 60s. Jomo Kenyatta was a Pan-Africanist. A lot of the civil rights activists in the United States considered themselves Pan-African. Malcolm X, MLK. And especially the time during the 60s when they were fighting the colonialists, we all united as Africans and said, you know what, these are our countries, so we have to actually have a Pan-Africanist conference that was held in right before 1963, Jomo Kenyatta and other leaders around Africa met in Europe to boycott the colonialists. You can Google it. It's a site.
I actually did. I did my research.
Okay, you did.
But then, would you say that Pan-Africanism is dead? Because, like you said, it's not a new term. It's something that has been there, for decades. But if we look at its histories in the 40s and the 60s, when a lot of the African states were gaining independence and coming out of colonialism, it was really active. The idea of being a Pan-African was really active. Do you think it's dying down now in some ways?
Well, okay, what I would say is that it's actually being revived as a term. The fact that we're using it again means that people are actually starting to embrace that idea. Even like 2 weeks ago on my site, I posted up an article of Africans in Twitter that were actually going against the usual poverty mindset. So what they were doing was they were taking pictures of their everyday life and putting it on Twitter to go against the regular culture of being impoverished, malnourished. And not to say those are not real issues. Those are issues we need to address. But that does not identify Africa. There are poor people all over the world. Why is it that Africa is always associated with poverty?
Yes, and then there was also...
There's a pity approach that people have towards Africa.
Yes.
Then Africans said, no, we're done. Yeah. This is what we live like. This is what we look like. We're putting it on Twitter for you guys to realize it's in your face.
I think the hashtag was something like what the media doesn't show you.
What TV doesn't show you.
What TV doesn't show you.
And it really spread on my post. I got about 3,000 shares.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most shares I've ever gotten on my page. And I think it's inspiring to say that there's no single story in Africa. And we need to create our own image.
I think we're actually seeing it being revived as well. When we look at the African leaders, they're coming together. We had the African Summit the other day. We're seeing more African leaders coming together, discussing these issues and saying, you know what, let's stand together.
I mean, we're also getting more faith in the African Union. The African Union was formed slightly after the European Union was formed, and it's supposed to bring all the African heads of states together. And for a very long time, that association didn't have much strength. But right now, if you look at the African Union, it's really, really growing in power. People are starting to believe in it and trust it as an institution of togetherness in Africa. Because one of the quotes is, individually, each African country is not strong. If you are actually to place an African country versus, let's say, the United States, it will be crushed. But together, we actually are a force to be reckoned with. Like Gaddafi once said that if Africa was to unite under one single currency, it would be the strongest currency on earth. But it means all of us working together. And you know how stubborn-headed each African leader is. Like, I want to be the president of Africa. No, I want to be the president. So until we find a way to have middle ground, the idea of the United States of Africa is still a bit far-fetched, but it was getting there. And that's the type of thing we need, like collective work and action.
Do you see us getting there? United States of Africa, do you think it's possible within our lifetime?
There was a vote, actually, to have it in 2011. Even Kenya said no, other countries said no, because they said, like, for example, if it was United Africa, we'd have to share one currency. So Kenya and Nigeria, other countries were arguing, how does Kenya share a currency with Somalia or Burundi or countries that are economically weaker than us? You see, they're thinking on the short term. Like, we've built the shilling to be so strong. How do I share the shilling with Somalia that hasn't done as much work? But Gaddafi was saying that's such short-term thinking. Think on the long run. See how the dollar controls us. See how the euro controls us. But if we unite and have one strong currency, we can compete with these other currencies and not be, taken advantage of. But you see, these countries said no, because they realized, I don't want to share my currency with Somalia or Burundi or Congo. But that's short-term thinking. So we have a long way to go, if you ask me.
Definitely, and I think you've just highlighted this individualistic thinking that we have as Africans, right? It's like, it's just,
just
the Kenyan nation, me.
Yeah.
And I just want you to highlight, for those people that are thinking, you know what, me, it's all about my country and where I'm from. How interconnected are we as African nations? Are we more interconnected than we do realize? Are we more similar than different? Okay,
I would advise anybody who's watching the show to leave Kenya and go to the UK or go to the US. You wouldn't be called Kenyan. For a long time, they'll be like, oh, you're African.
Yeah, that's so true.
That's cool. You're from Africa. You're African. And that's the first time you'll be confronted with, I'm Kenyan, though. But yeah, you're right, I am actually African. So that's the first way, because if you stay in Kenya, you wouldn't really feel African. Maybe you watch Nigerian movies, but once you leave and go abroad, you're going to look at your Ghanaian brother and be like, well, we have so much in common. You guys wash clothes with your hands too, eh? You guys have electricity problems. Us too. Gosh, we're so alike. These Americans are so different. Yeah. That's when you're going to be like, hey, Ghanaian is my brother.
That's true. And
Nigerian is my brother.
Really
then you start realizing we have so much in common. That we actually should come back to Africa and have a different mindset. But if you just stick in Kenya, you won't necessarily think of yourself as other than Kenyan. Maybe you think of yourself as your tribe. Me, I'm Kikuyu. Me, I'm Maasai. And that is so short-term thinking. So once you open your mind to be African, like I travel to Nigeria and I go to Lagos a lot, and I just see a lot of similarities to Kenya. And I laugh about it. Like, oh, you guys have electricity problems? So do we, But once you just think of yourself as Kenyan, you limit your mind. I mean, it's nice to be Kenyan. It's nice to be your tribe. But we need to open our minds to unite, because the only way we'll stop poverty, the only way we'll grow economically is working together. That's what I'm trying to tell people in my blog.
And also, at the same time, we don't realize that a lot of the things that happen in these other African nations affect our nations as well. We think that, we don't want to think about Somalia and what's happening in Somalia or Burundi.
You see, a really good example,
we don't realize that it's all interconnected.
A really good example is the Rwandan genocide. When the genocide was happening, a lot of African countries were like, let's wait for the United States to fix the issue as always, because the US or the UN fixes it. But Kenya never sent troops to Rwanda. No other country bordering Rwanda sent any type of help. You realize these people are killing each other with machetes. If Kenya sent the KDF with guns, only about 100 people could have stopped a genocide of almost 1 million people. But we have to be like, oh, let's wait for America. Oh, let's wait for Europe. Because we don't help each other. We don't see other African countries as assistance. We see, oh, Kenya is just as poor as Rwanda or something, so why should we help them, you know? If we develop this attitude of if there's an issue in Uganda, we're sending troops. Kenya is quick to send troops. Or if there's an issue in Kenya, Uganda is helping Kenya. We need to stop this reliance on America, the West, to save the day, or Europe. So the idea of Africans working together, we don't need to wait for the Europeans or the Americans to come and fix our problems. Let's fix our problems ourselves, otherwise they'll never respect us. They'll always have control of us. Another key example is Zimbabwe. When Mugabe kicked out all the white farmers, Europe boycotted Zimbabwe. Their currency is so bad right now, it takes 10 billion Zimbabwean dollars to buy a loaf of bread. Because when the Europeans said, nope, no more trade, their currency went, because they don't trade with other African countries. They're just reliant on Europe. Yeah. So if Europe says, we don't like you, we shut you down, happens like this, because we don't work together as Africans. You get what I'm trying to say? I
understand 100%. Yeah. And, you know, throughout the show, you've been talking a lot about the darkness surrounded in Africa, right? The perceptions that people have of Africa. You know, poor Africa, sad Africa, you know, poverty-stricken Africa, you know. But then who do you think is really responsible for that mindset that we have, you know, on a global scale of...
We are responsible for that, because
I'm so glad that you say that, because so many people blame the Americans and they blame the Europeans and they say that, you know, they're the ones that are painting us in bad light, but actually they have reason to look at us that way. We need
to take control of our own media. It's not what they portray us as, it's how we portray ourselves.
And how we allow
even our own
to
news.
Be portrayed.
You guys have a studio here. You have beautiful cameras. You guys need to go out and take pictures and videos of beautiful Nairobi growing, the new restaurants, the amazing things that are happening in Nairobi. I mean, it's not to say you don't highlight poverty, don't highlight the issues that are happening in the world, in our society. We need to do that as well. But don't just show one side of the story. Haven't you noticed the news nowadays? They know that sad news and crime and murders sell. They don't always show positive things on the news. Sometimes I don't even watch news.
Absolutely.
I don't I put on the news like, hey, people have died. They're drinking changa.
That
30
is
people.
so true. And you know, very
people
funny,
have died.
What you're saying is so true. And I'm yet to see, you know, news being presented in positive light.
We need to show
talking about good stories. Why can't we have 1 hour of news
positive
where we're highlighting, you know, good things?
Yeah, you can be eating your dinner and just getting depressed, like, oh God, this world is really sucks.
And there was actually a psychology study that was done that showed that when you watch negative news, you're more likely to go out into the world, you know, with this negative mindset and negative thinking.
Yeah, so it's really up to us Africans to portray ourselves in a positive light. Let's not wait for CNN. Let's not wait for other news agencies. Let's be the ones to take advantage of our own news media agencies and show positive news to them. Force it down their throats so that they don't think of Africa as just a poverty-stricken area. And the reason why is it's good for trade. You don't want to. People don't do trade with people who consider poor or beneath them. The good thing about China doesn't care. China does trade. What can you give us and what can we give them? But the West, like Europe, America, they've always had this pity. Give us aid and all this other stuff, which ruins our economies. So we need to show them, no, we're on your level. Don't pity us. Do business with us. Give us investments. We need investments to grow. We don't need that pity money like, oh, we're giving them a check of 1 million to the poor Africans, because that's what we do. We care for people. We need to show, no, we're business partners. I don't want your aid money. What are you giving me and what are we giving you? That's how we're going to grow.
What's the stereotype that absolutely annoys you? When the African stereotypes people have and you're just like, you know what? It just crawls under your skin and you're like, I cannot handle this.
I think what I would say is the one for, I hate the idea of people not thinking we have basic infrastructure. Like, oh my God, you live on trees. Yeah. Or you don't have, I had a girl once when I was in the US who asked me, you guys have laptops in Africa? I said, like I didn't know what to tell her. Like she thought we didn't have computers, and I don't know. Usually, sometimes you just go with the flow. Like, yeah, I swam across the ocean to get here. It was a long journey. And the weird thing is, people believe you when you say those things. So I think that the worst one is people not believing we have technology in the 21st century. I hate that.
All right, thank you, Lenana. We have to take a quick break yet again, but when we come back, more on Pan-Africanism. It's all about Africa here at Politically Correct. Make sure that you stay tuned here at TVC.